Okay, so starting off with something light and not so serious, who's your favorite woman hero and why, and not including your family?
Oh, wow. I can't include my family. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can we skip that one and let me think about it for a minute?
Yeah.
I mean, my first reaction is Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Mm-hmm.
Just, a tremendous icon and someone who follows, everybody's like, oh, we need to follow the Constitution, constitutional law, but certainly her interpretation of the Constitution is very much in line with mine, and the fact that, she's clearly had some serious health issues,
mm-hmm.
but she's continued to work through those, and I think she recognizes how important her voice is
mm-hmm.
on the court, and that strength and determination and the decision that she's clearly making that, whether she dies while she's still serving or shortly thereafter, that she's truly giving her life to this country. Okay, I don't have to think about it anymore. That's my person.
And then before college, what did you plan on doing?
And you know what? You are the second person today who has asked me that question. Isn't that funny? Because I was talking to a constituent who does counseling for high schoolers, and she said that she tells her students that there is a better than average chance that 10 years from now they will be doing a job that they don't know even exists right now.
Oh, wow.
And she said, there is no way in the world, because I personally handle immigration casework, and some of the things I've been working on just in the last few days have been significant. And she said that there's no way in high school that you would have thought that, at some point in your life, this is the work you would be doing. I really always thought I would go to law school. My father's a lawyer, and I don't know. I just always thought I was either a teacher or a lawyer were the two things that I probably would have said in high school.
Okay. And then what work and motivation did it take you to get to your position that you are in today?
Say the question again. What work or motivation?
Did it take you, because you're...
Right. How did my background lead me to what I'm doing right now?
Yes.
I would say that my entire career, and at my age, I think I will only have one more job after this one before I retire. Just knowing that the congressman is probably not going to run until I'm, continue to run for office until I retire. But, I anticipate being in the workforce for maybe another 10 years. So that would be one more job. But I would say that every job that I have had has boiled down to customer service. And I would also say that a huge percentage of jobs out there end up boiling down to customer service. I mean, I spent 10 years in retail. I spent 5 years in the amusement park industry. I spent 10 years working for Aegon in the insurance business. And then I've been here for 9 years. I mean, that's basically my path. And whether they're internal or external customers. I've always had external customers, but that's what it boils down to is taking care of people, doing your best to meet their needs in a pleasant way. And the actual product that I'm dealing with continues to change. Doing casework now, helping people with their issues with federal agencies. It takes different skill sets to provide that customer service, but it all boils down to taking care of people.
Mm-hmm. And then, did you receive help along the way of your journey to the job you are at now, like by a mentor or a parent or a teacher, counselor, or anything like that? Or any person like that?
I mean, I would say in the sort of, at the 30,000 foot height kind of, yes. I mean, I had caring and loving, I was very fortunate. I had caring and loving and supporting parents. I was able to attend very good schools where I got an outstanding education. I've been lucky. I've lived a blessed life, and but I've also always been taught that you have to work hard. You have to hold yourself accountable. So there's no one that stands out. It's not as though I necessarily needed a mentor the way some folks do. I try very hard to be a mentor, but I was fortunate, and I think I was raised with being taught to go out there and do it yourself and work hard, but I always knew I had a big safety net.
And then, how was your overall experience in schools and universities? Were you the only woman in your classes at universities, and did you feel like you were the only woman in the room ever?
The only time I can tell you I feel like I've been, no. I actually went to a college that had been an all-girls school that had gone co-ed about 10 years earlier. So it was about 60%. I went to Connecticut College, and when I went there, it was maybe 55-45 or 60-40 women to men, because it had historically been a women's college. And in high school, there may have been a few more guys than girls. It was a merger of I went to a school that merged an all-boys school with an all-girls school.
Yeah.
So, I have to say, I tend to have lots of guy friends, and I'm also actively involved in politics outside of my congressional role, and so in my free time, I'm very involved in politics, and I will say that the times that I've been the only girl in the room have historically been when I'm hanging out with a group of friends, because I tend to have a lot of guy friends, or when I'm doing some political work, and some areas of my political career, there were way more guys than there were girls.
And then, how do you think your professors envisioned you?
It's again very funny. I just we've moved recently, and I've been going through a bunch of old stuff, and I just came across the recommendation letter that one of my professors wrote for me, just sort of a blind recommendation letter when I graduated, and a professor with whom I'm still in contact. He was amazing. And I think that, and so what he said was that I was a quick thinker, that I was passionate in supporting my positions, that I had a lot of energy and enthusiasm. I'm trying to think what else. That I could be tenacious, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much the person I am today.
And then, did you have any female professors, and did you have female professors who especially supported and helped you meet your goals? Which you kind of already answered that one, but...
No, the professor, I have to say, the professors that I had in the classes that I loved the most, and just happened to be men. So, yeah, the whole interview, and you can cut this part off, but, this whole concept of women power, women in government, women supporting one another, as much as I personally have tried to be that kind of leader and mentor, and it's not as though I can put my finger on women who played that role for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you that I feel like the influence of my father, I was one of two girls, and I'm the oldest, and my father always treated us the way he would have any child, boy or girl, right? So we were raised to be, fierce and hardworking, and he would never cut us slack on anything. And I remember one of my girlfriends, her dad would come to all of our hockey games, and he would stand on the sidelines and yell, "Go, princess." And I thought, for once I would like Daddy to think of me as a princess. But looking back on it, I wasn't a princess. I was a warrior, and he raised me to be a warrior. And my mother was just such a force. She ended up being a building contractor in the 70s, right? Yeah. She's the only female building contractor. She was virtually self-taught because when we would do additions to the house, she would do, contract out the work herself. She would do all the design. She was a fabulous artist and had great style, and so she would design additions and contract the work out, and then she went into it as a business, and she had the business for 25 years. So she was absolutely a woman in a man's world. Yeah. And but the thing that was so wonderful, and she focused on kitchen remodels, because she was also a woman that had been a stay-at-home mom and had prepared all the meals, and the advantage that she had as a woman in a contractor's role is that she knew how women, first of all, you're normally dealing with the wife when it comes to those things. Second of all, she knew how a kitchen operated, and she knew what needed to be where, and she had a very organized mind. And so she was able to say, and then she'd walk into people's kitchen and go, "Oh, well, yeah, a man designed this, because he's got the cabinet where you would logically put the glasses on the opposite side of the room from the dishwasher, and you have the kitchen on the opposite side of the house from the garage, so when you bring in the groceries, you have to haul them up, I mean, so she had that kind of logical mind, and she'd also been a housewife, and she was also incredibly handy. And so for her to put all of those things together, she was extraordinarily successful, because she had the best of both.
Yeah.
And so I kind of grew up with that. And the joke we tell is mother called Daddy one time at the office and said, I need you to come home for lunch. The dryer's broken. And Daddy said, why in the world do you need to become... Because my father couldn't change a light bulb. I mean, he was just completely inept when it came to any of that. Mm. He said, well, what in the world do you need me to come home for? And she said, I need you to move the dryer so I can fix it, and then you can put it back. It was like, I need your brawn. I do not need your brains. I will take care of fixing it, right? I mean, my mother did. She fixed everything in our house. Wow. So, the first question about, and it can't be a relative.
Well, it can be.
Oh, okay.
It was like, I was trying to direct it more towards, like, maybe there's, like, not a celebrity, but, like, someone in the media that, like...
Yeah. But no, I mean, and I think Ruth Bader Ginsburg is a good one, but, for me. But, I didn't... I feel like I kind of had everything I needed with my parents. Mm-hmm. I had a dad that wasn't going to cut me any slack because I was a girl. That just meant you had to be tougher. And I had a mother who was just tough as nails, but kind and loving and caring and a fabulous mother. So I feel like I was fortunate enough to sort of have all of that, everything that I needed right there, and that was a blessing.
And then, okay. How do you feel working in your job now? Do you feel like there's fair treatment between you and the opposite sex?
Oh. Well, yeah, we have 6 people in this office, 5 of whom are female. Yeah. We have a boss, the congressman, who has a female chief of staff, a female district director, a female constituent services manager. I think that out of the maybe 8 people in D.C., only 2 of them, I guess 3 of them are guys. So they're in the minority up there. Yes. The congressman will tell you that women run his life, and he likes it that way.
And then what are some of your future plans and goals in life?
Well, you're talking to somebody that's, like I said, one job away from retirement.
Yeah.
So, my future plans and goals are to... once the congressman decides that he's not running for office anymore, to find one more job that is as fulfilling as this one, which is not going to be an easy task.
And then, do you have any advice to your high school self and to other young women now?
Yeah, I mean, be fierce. It doesn't mean that you need to be, angry and combative, but, understand that anything that you put your mind to, you can do, you can accomplish. So sort of be fierce in attacking your goals, be fierce in holding yourself accountable. Be fierce in when it comes to, doing the right thing.
And then, according to Merriam-Webster, feminism is the belief that men and women should have equal rights and opportunities. Do you agree with this definition? Like, would you alter or change anything about it? Why or why not?
No, I think that feminism has been, for whatever reason, been given a bad name, but that is the definition of feminism. I am a feminist. I can't imagine, anyone who is not, and I don't know at what point along the way feminism turned into kind of a bad word, but no, I'm fierce in my feminism.
Yeah. And then, do you feel like the representation of women in government is particularly low in the U.S.? Why or why not? And do you know what percentage of women make up U.S. politics?
It is definitely low, and to say politics is such a broad, every state is different. You know, nationally, clearly, we have a small percentage of women in the Senate. We have a better percentage of women in the House, but that's because they're more, it's obviously the most populous election. But, yeah, I mean, no, women are totally underrated. And I read a fabulous thing the other day that said that, you know, it was a woman who, it was the acting attorney general who is a female that said she wasn't going to defend the immigration ban. It was two female judges that came out and said that, you know, issued stays on the ban. It was, I can't remember. They gave like 4 or 5 different examples of women leading the charge to stop the ban on refugees and immigrants from those 7 countries. I think women are, by nature, more cooperative, less combative, and what a wonderful place it would be if our politics could be more cooperative and less combative. So yes, we need more women. We don't have enough, nearly enough, and we don't. You know, I mean, if you put women in charge, the world would be a much better place. But we don't even come close to having a representative number of women in elected office.
And there's a few facts about that. So women make up 51% of the population, or the U.S. population, I think, in total of the world, but only make up 17% of the government. There have been 50 total women in the U.S. Senate since its establishment in 1789. The U.S. ranks 98th in the world for a percentage of women in its national legislature, with Rwanda being number 1, and they have 49% of their government is female. And then if the U.S. stays at this exact rate of women being represented in our government, it will take 500 years for us to catch up and be equally represented in Congress. Yeah.
Pitiful. How many senators are there now that are women? Like 9 or something? 8 or 9?
Yeah.
It's terrible.
I know. And then, in what ways do you think society can better motivate women and girls to actively participate in leadership roles in our society?
Well, I will tell you that some of the encouraging news is evidently Emily's List has just been overrun with requests for classes teaching women, you know, how to be candidates. I do think that this administration is motivating people, particularly women, to get more involved in politics and run for elected office. You know, Emerge is another great national organization that is helping train women. You know, it's difficult on women because we do end up, for the most part, being the primary caregiver when there are children in the family, and trying to balance that is difficult. I'll say when my children were young, I started working part-time, and I worked part-time for a number of years. Now that I think I was busier then than I was when I was working full-time, just because then I had more time to do volunteer work, and I was always at the school and, you know, contributing to society in some way, even though it was volunteer work. But, you know, it's a struggle, but I think women are now once again getting motivated to get active, and it's very easy to become complacent when it seems like the country is doing okay, but you got a bunch of angry women right now.
Yeah.
And I think that we can only be better for that.
Mm-hmm. And then lastly, if this was your project and you had to create an art piece that represents women in government, how do you think you would best represent that?
Oh, I'm trying to get your interviewees to...
Yeah.
Oh, I am not a very artistic person. You know, like I said, I mean, I just, somehow or another to, you know, women can be so strong, but we can also be so, you know, and I'm sure that if a man were listening to this, he would probably say, well, we can be like that too, you know, and it's true. But when I think about, you know, women in government and women in places of, you know, influence, I do feel like we have this ability to be more outwardly compassionate.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, we can be strong and fierce.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the lion and the lamb, you know, the lioness, the protective of people at the same time that you can be fierce and strong when it comes to making things right, you know? So I don't know how you project that, but there is something about sort of the two sides of being a woman, you know, the strength and the softness that I think. The other thing, interesting for you, so I went to a class decades ago, and to be perfectly honest, I can't even remember why I was in the class, what the class was about. It was not when I was in school, it was after school. And they were talking about male-owned businesses versus female-owned businesses. And they talked about, and stop me if you've heard this, but, you know, the military, the hierarchical, the historically male, you know, I'm at the top and I have all my layers and levels of people below me, just the way the military is set up. And that's the way male-dominated businesses are normally set up. Female-owned businesses are set up because the owner of the business, the female, typically wants to be right in the middle of everything. And so you will see that female-owned businesses are not set up in the typical pyramid. They're set up with lots of sort of, you know, equal folks, and they all sort of swirl around the owner of the business. So, and what they said is they're good and bad to both, right? But, you know, that this structure tends to be more rigid, this structure tends to be more creative, this structure tends to be more ordered, you know, the female structure tends to be more chaotic because just have all this stuff going on around you. But, and they really weren't putting judgment on either one, but pointing out that reality that women rarely will set up their business. I mean, I think about my mother, you know, and her contracting business, you know, and it's like she had her plumber and her electrician and her carpenter and her, you know, and it was just one big swirl around her. And she would be right there in the middle of it, helping to sweep up or, you know, jumping in where she needed to be. So that's kind of an interesting visual for...
That makes you wonder, like, if instead of, like, most of our, like, just our government was made up of men, like how it's kind of like that now, or like maybe if it was all made up of women, how different it would be.
Mm-hmm.
Like just thinking about it, like how it would look like today.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a thought.
Mm-hmm.
But those are all the questions I have.
All right.
So thank you.